Stop. God, stop. The hell are you doing? Okay. If I'm gonna take you on,
You won't never regret it.
look, just listen to me. If I take you on,
I promise I'll work so hard.
God, this is a mistake already.
Welcome everyone to the Twice Over Movies podcast. The clip you just heard is from Million Dollar Baby, 2004 film. This movie is starring Hilary Swank and Clint Eastwood, and Morgan Freeman. It is directed by Clint Eastwood. So the story basically goes, Maggie, played by Hilary Swank, is a fighter that is looking to go professional and wants Frankie, played by Clint Eastwood, to be her trainer and manager. Today I'm joined with Yusuf and Fahad to review this movie. What up, guys?
Hey guys.
What's up for us?
Let's get into our scores for this movie real quick and discuss or get into the review. Let's start with writing. You just want to just rattle off the scores, guys, and see where we're at?
Let's go.
Sure.
All right, for writing, I got it at a 65.
I've got writing at an 80.
I'm at a 40.
Oh,
Oof,
wow.
damn.
Harsh.
So, wait, Fahad, I want to hear your thoughts. Why did you think it was good?
So I thought the story was incredibly focused and on the characters. There was a lot of gruffy dialogue with a little bit of humor. Normally, I don't like voiceovers, but the voiceover by Morgan Freeman worked fine with this movie. What do you guys have?
You can go first since you have the opposite end of the score.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I guess I felt like a lot of the writing in this movie is a little bit fluffy. It's an attempt to add like color to the characters, I think, but to me it just felt kind of not organic at times. I think part of that is because a lot of the things that they do tell us about the characters and, you know, these little personality traits they develop, I mean, nothing really seems to tie together, or they kind of stop halfway. For example, I felt like in more than one way, there's focus on Frankie's character, right? Clint Eastwood's character, and kind of the backstory that he comes in with, kind of the baggage that he has.
About his regrets, right?
Right.
About how he's lived his life.
But I felt like they stopped halfway, right? They never really told us what was truly going on with him. More so
Right.
just kind of the effect it was having on him, and I felt like that gave us kind of an incomplete picture. And then I was kind of wondering why they even spent that much time on it.
So I agree with you 100%, but because it was a side story, it didn't diminish the main story's, focus.
So one point that Yusuf said that I totally agree with, and is why I went down to a 65, is that the script itself felt super scripted and it felt unnatural almost. And I mean, you said fluffy, Yusuf. I wrote down it seems a little cheesy. And Fahad, I think you saw that as, what'd you say? Very.
Clint Eastwood's dialogue was extremely gruffy, mumbled everything, and
I mean, I think we kind of feel the same way about it. It's just how you focus on the main story, whereas I just thought that it just felt way too rehearsed for me to get into it. The writing was taking me out of it. I'm like, did he really just say that? That makes no sense. That was so I don't know, formula driven.
And what do you think of Maggie's the dialogue written for Maggie's character?
I thought she did a great job of executing it. However, the dialogue itself, I didn't. It felt cheesy to me. Like you said, it was fluffy. It was it didn't seem to have substance behind it.
She's a little bit cliche, right? I mean, she's like this kind of small town girl who doesn't really know much and is excitable about tiny little things, and they kind of give her a little bit too much of that character. And again, Hilary Swank probably did fine in the role, but I think the role was written a little bit simplistically.
Too simplistically?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, I'm glad we have this much disagreement on even just this one category. We'll see how the rest go, but I mean, we might tend to agree on a lot of things, and I like that we kind of all saw the same things, noticed the same things, but took different things away from it. So I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I just obviously I'm at a 40, so I didn't really enjoy the writing, but I'm open to hearing why I might be wrong. So
because for me, Maggie's character, because it was so well acted by Hilary Swank, it diminished any flaws in the writing.
I can repair a lot.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Let's get into let's do the acting since we both mentioned it. I gave this an 80.
I gave this a 95.
I gave it a full 50 points here.
Wow.
Whoa.
So the 95 I can justify alone with Hilary Swank's acting. I thought Clint Eastwood's acting was pretty mediocre and distracting. Morgan Freeman did all right, I think, in his role. But again, my score just rides on Hilary Swank's acting.
Yeah, so everyone was all right for me as well, except for Hilary Swank. I thought she was very good, so it bumped it up to an 80.
Hilary Swank was pretty solid, I think. I don't even know that I would think she was very good, but worth noting, she did win Best Actress for this back in 2004. I thought she was pretty good, but I think my issue had to do with everyone else on screen for the most part. Clint Eastwood has like zero emotion. I felt like he ruined almost every scene he was in, which is almost every scene of the movie. He honestly shouldn't be in this movie, man. I mean, he
should have found some other actor for it.
I mean, he directed and produced this movie. He probably should have stayed there and gotten an actor that he could actually, that he could actually critique and could actually mold on screen. Instead, it's him doing everything, and I'm not always a fan of that approach, because that means he has very little feedback on how he's doing, and I don't think he did very well.
True.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Clint Eastwood, man. Like, he's playing a very, like, masculine, macho, like, old school American character, and it's like so overdone and stereotypical that it just does not come off right.
With repressed emotions, right?
Yeah.
But it makes sense for his character because he's like this 70-year-old guy.
Sure, but I don't think he acts it well.
Yeah.
There's something, yeah, you're right. Like,
Agreed.
it's almost, the lack of emotion is actually a character trait, but some reason that was like bothering me every scene. I mean, it made his acting unbelievable. So it might just be the way that he's presenting that just did not work for me. And I don't think anyone else in this movie really helped either. I mean, what did you think, like, about the peripheral, actors? I'm thinking of like Danger and Sharel and like Maggie's family. I thought they were all pretty distracting, actually.
Danger was like the comic relief in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And overdone, I thought. Like, I mean, he's
Perhaps.
he's playing, he's putting on this accent to kind of play this Western, young boy, and it wasn't good. The accent itself wasn't good, and he was just kind of annoying.
I think he's supposed to be playing this not Western, but mentally handicapped individual.
That was
right?
supposed to be mentally handicapped.
I
Was
think
it?
so.
I just assumed he's just a Southerner with
Well, he's definitely a Southerner.
maybe
But
lack of an education.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's definitely dumb. I don't know if he's mentally handicapped. I don't know. It's like he has
You
some
wouldn't go that far.
has some learning difficulty probably, but like I don't know like what exactly you would want to call him. But yeah, that was kind of he's in a lot of scenes too, right? I mean, we can talk about this later as well.
He is, and I think it serves like that to fill that spectrum. Morgan Freeman talked about it's about fighters with all heart, fighters with skill and heart, and then fighters with just skill. And like Danger falls on one end of the spectrum, Maggie falls right in the middle, and the other fighter at the beginning of the story, he fell on just pure skill. I forgot his name.
That's Sharel, right? The one that who's juxtaposed to Danger throughout the movie, right?
All right, so I mean, we're kind of all over the place right now. Let's see where we are with the narrative. I gave this an 85.
I gave it the same score.
I am at a solid 55, guys.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Go ahead and explain yourself.
Yeah, you want me to go? I can start, yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're the one who's the outlier.
So I don't know. I thought the plot development was pretty slow. You guys didn't feel like that? It felt like they dwelled on certain portions of the progression just a little too long, unnecessarily. I mean, let's just start with.
Well, I like that. I like stories that get off to a slow start and then like the tempo builds up.
Sure, I'm totally fine with that generally, but like. Basically, I guess I'm thinking to myself throughout the movie: do we need to spend this much time on the relationship of these characters before Frankie finally agrees to take on Maggie in some capacity? I felt like they spent so long on the fighter that Willie was working on before Maggie, Willie. They spent so much time on kind of that arc and just like having Frankie march in and out of the gym saying like, why is she still here, get her out of here, like, I'm not training girls. Like how many times did they do that? And it's just like, okay, we get it, like he's got some sort of he's got some sort of aversion to it. He's overprotective of his fighters, just like we can move on from that. And I almost felt like there was a little bit, it's like 30 minutes before we actually get beyond that, and it's a 2-hour movie. I felt like it shouldn't have even been that long, but that's a lot of time for that. So that's just one example without really diving into the later part of the plot. But I don't feel like that issue went away throughout the movie either.
I kind of agree with a lot of what you said, Yusuf. I did note myself that it was pretty slow, both to start the movie and to end the movie. Maybe a little, you could have easily knocked out like maybe 15, 20 minutes from this movie. It's from both ends, from the beginning and the end. But like, I don't know, the general story is easy to follow, easy to be engaged with. I mean, it's like, you know, you got the underdog story. And it's again, cliched, sure, but it's still entertaining for me. So I didn't want to be too harsh on that.
So I wanted to go back to what something Yusuf said. It's about the slow tempo. I thought the intention behind that was to I don't know, to build more complex characters, but I don't think Clint Eastwood achieved that. But I think that was the goal, to keep the story simple, keep it slow paced in some moments, and just to build on characterization.
Yes, I could totally see that. That he wanted to build up these characters. And I think we referenced this earlier as well. I don't think he executed all the way on those. It's kind of like we're diving into these characters, but then he's, you know, pulling the punches. No pun intended, but
it's almost cliches, right? Which doesn't help.
Yeah, like when you just get the surface level stuff, then it's like, you know, we're never really fully developing these characters, so why are we even spending time on it? And then that amount of time that's allotted to, you know, looking into these little nuances of the backstory, but never fully getting there, that feels unnecessary because we never get the full depth, and we also burned, you know, 15 minutes on this random backstory. So I felt like that was kind of a repetitive issue there. You know, obviously you can see my complaints from different categories kind of bleeding into each other here. And I think, you know, that has an effect. It's like the acting wasn't fully, you know, it wasn't fully convincing, and that affected how I viewed the, you know, the execution on the character development, and that you know, was also affected by how poor the writing was to me. So yeah, it's a multifaceted issue that's showing up a lot of places, I think.
Fair enough. Let's go on to the aesthetics. I gave this a 60.
I'm at a 70 here.
I'm at an 80.
Hey, we're closer.
Yeah.
Closer for sure.
I thought it was just average. You know, the photography, it's just marked by that low saturation appearance. It's grainy, and I think it functions to kind of de-glamorize the boxing sport, I guess. A lot of it
was kind of dark. They used shadows kind of well.
Yeah, shadows, right? The shadow scenes, it was like bright lights, shadows, creating like this high contrast stuff, lighting. And it's used in the gym when they're training, and it's also used like in the hospital scenes later. It's used all over the place.
So for me, I thought it was pretty much average, but then it was the music that pushed it down to a 60 for me, because it was just very Hollywood, I guess, and not creative.
So on the music, I thought it was just one score being played, so I didn't mind it too much because it wasn't like that distracting.
I would say it's distracting for me because when it's trying too hard to get the audience to feel a certain way, with it being kind of in your face and not subtle. So I mean, it wasn't horrible, so I didn't go like crazy with it, but that's why I pushed it down to a 60 instead of keeping it at the average of 70.
Hey, guess who scored this movie?
Who did?
Clint Eastwood, baby.
Really? He scored it too? What?
Yeah. It wasn't enough to produce, direct, and act. He was like, "No, let me get on that. I don't even know what instrument it was, but you know, he did that as well. So, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know.
And Yusuf, you're pretty much in between us, so I assume you got like a little bit from A and B.
I think you guys captured it perfectly. I mean, the movie is meant to be aesthetically a little bit depressing. You know, it's totally purposeful, and I think they accomplished that. And then there are those scenes with kind of the bright lights and all of that to contrast that, and they go back and forth between that because, you know, part of this movie is about showing that, like, you know, the ring and, you know, boxing, that was kind of the one bright spot where you could kind of, you know, escape kind of the fleeting nature of your life, and they did that perfectly, I think.
And I think the matches were the only scenes with like good levels of saturation in terms of color.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie was pretty drab.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they did a pretty good job of that. I could probably go a little bit higher than I did, frankly, and I might have to think about that because aesthetically, this movie was pretty on point with what it was trying to convey, and I always like that. You know, So they did a good job with that. Yeah, I didn't really notice the score either way, so I kind of just fell right in the middle there. It didn't bother me, but it didn't really stand out to me at all either.
All right, so let's go on to the last category, themes. Here, I was pretty generous, I think, and rethinking it right now, I might go lower, but I gave it a 90.
Okay, I gave it a score of 70.
I'm at an 80. Finally, Fahad, you're the lowest on this.
I'm the lowest on this because to me it's a pretty hokey sports movie and it doesn't have anything below the surface, I guess. You know, it's just like those basic themes in all sports movies. It's persistence, a little bit of loyalty, themes of loyalty running through it.
Yeah.
For
guilt, regret
with Clint Eastwood's character, but that whole story arc, I didn't appreciate it.
I think it also applies to Maggie.
I would actually, you know what, like I would take the lens back a little bit further. Instead of looking at like guilt and regret, I would almost, you could combine all of those things and say like everyone is looking to fill some sort of void, and that might be because of something that went wrong, or it might be something that they've never had in their life. And I think in Maggie's case, it's kind of the latter, where, you know, she's missing guidance. She doesn't really have like family that appreciates her, and she's looking for that appreciation and that level of, I don't know, just a close relationship. And of course, as you guys said, with, you know, with Frankie's character, with Clint Eastwood's character, he's got a lot of weight on him that he's trying to relieve, and that's what he's looking for. Those kind of, they're almost two embodiments of the same concept, right? So that's kind of why I went where I did on the theme score, because I thought they showed one concept taking several different forms, and I always appreciate that if I can, you know, the fact that I can summarize a theme in just a few words, but that goes in a lot of different directions in terms of how it's portrayed. I always like that, and I thought they did that here. So that's kind of the way that I would look at it.
I pretty much agree with Yusuf 100%. A lot of that stuff about filling the void and how, yeah, Maggie has an ungrateful family, and Frankie kind of has that same kind of development happening with his personal life. So it's about how they're filling each other's voids,
which I thought was good. And then you also get the juxtaposition with a lot of the characters who never get that opportunity, right? I mean, I'm talking about kind of the peripheral characters that we see kind of wasting away. So, you know, I think they did that fairly well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I thought they did it pretty good. But yeah, Yusuf, despite that, you kind of hate this movie. Your score comes out to 58. Fahad thinks it's all right at 80, and I think it's basically average at 73.
Yeah, I like the sharp differences.
I think there's a lot more to dive into here, and we can fight about it some more. So,
okay, everyone, thanks for listening to the review. We'll be back next week on Thursday with the discussion.
Thanks for listening to this production of The Twice Over. If you haven't already, subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcast, and remember to support us on Patreon or by sharing the podcast with a friend. Feel free to contact us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at The Twice Over, or email us at comments@thetwiceover.com. All of the music you heard is from Amerigo Gazaway. Check him out on Bandcamp and Spotify.